Okay, we need to pause right here. So I'm just thinking about from Bose's perspective, a woman of color with dark skin, so thinking about colorism even within racism, hearing from a white lady with a bunch of privilege, saying to her, I felt physiologically unsafe. I'm blinking. Long pauses between blinks. And that is very much what this feels like with Amanda, where it's sort of like, oh no, it's all about her safety, right? So that's the sort of concept this comes from of white lady tears and the idea of commandeering a conversation to be about their safety rather than about what was originally being discussed.
Come with us. Let's reality test.
Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing? Something we all do every day when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or more fact-based reality. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Reality Test. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like. This is Dr. K while Dr. Ray is away. And finally, at goodness, long last, we have the second half of my Amanda Francis deep dive. So you're going to hear me jump right back into talking about little audio clips, and in the video version one day that shall come when my computer's working again enough for me to do some good videos, we will be able to see the video clips as well. So you're going to remember potentially, or if not, you might want to go back and listen to the first half of the deep dive of Amanda Francis, that part of what we're hearing is a total lack of awareness about the effect she has on those around her and sort of a difficulty mentalizing or putting herself in other people's shoes. Here, you're going to hear some more examples of that, starting with a scene where Amanda's talking to her husband and he's sharing about how he tends to connect with their deceased son, infant son, in a way that she's unable to. And then we'll hear more about the background of the story as well. Let's get into it. This is between Amanda and her husband.
Any problems?
No.
Anyone cry about mama?
No.
Not even at bedtime?
No, bedtime was different. I just felt him.
3 years ago, I had twins, Kanan and Zion. Emergency C-section, middle of the night, born 11 weeks early. It was a hard pregnancy, and Zion, my son, didn't make it. He died at 5 days old in the NICU.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry.
Zion's placenta was faulty, so he was having a hard time in the womb. Kanan was in the NICU for 68 days. Zion died in my arms the first time I ever held him. Friday is obviously the anniversary of him dying.
Yeah.
That was a really weird day for me last year, so I don't know how I'll be this year.
Obviously, she's been through some trauma, some real serious trauma. And I can't imagine. Just absolutely heart-wrenching. Thinking about holding the baby for the first time and having him die in her, oh God, having him die in her arms. It's just heartbreaking. Again, just special kind of trauma that she and very few people can really say that they had survived. So some important things are going to come up around this trauma. One is that objectively horrific. Like, just absolutely no one deserves that. Absolutely, it's one of the worst things you've ever heard. And when and how it comes up is a choice of Amanda's. So right there, we've already seen the first time she's disclosed it to the women, which was at a party, sort of like standing up and taking the floor, if you will. I'm curious about the ways in which it's sort of like trauma dumping in order to connect, and sort of a way of sort of saying, like, here's the thing about me so that you can get to know me, so that you have pity for me, or, you know, like compassion for me, and understand how strong I am considering what happened, right? Because ultimately that's what she's saying in that, because she's strong. She is strong. And so she's saying, like, look how strong I am considering that happened. Everyone's shocked it happened, because she doesn't seem like she's that distraught. Like, you know, she seems like no, of course she's distraught. She doesn't seem like she's falling apart as much as they imagine they might be in this scenario. So, right, she's showing how resilient she is, and that might bring people closer to her, and they like how vulnerable she is, and da-da-da. So that feels like at least it has benefits, even if it wasn't shared at that time for benefits. What would I do differently? Share it individually with people. You don't need to tell the whole group, and you don't need to do it to get the dance floor, or get the speech floor in your face, to be able to talk, right? You should be able to share something that's of interest to the whole group without it being a trauma, especially that early on in the group process. It's just really concerning, honestly, for me. Yeah.
Monday was Kanan's birthday. Today's actually the anniversary. I spoke with Eddie about it, and this should be a day to be around friends. Maybe it'd be a good distraction and try to have the best day I can. If I seem weird tonight, that might be right.
Or maybe even saying like, so do check in with me because that's why. But like, why are you here if you know you're going to be so weird that you might want to go home? And so I could also see her sort of like trying to be like, so that's all it is. Like, no big deal. Like, it's not that I have to go home if I'm upset like that. It's just because that's what's going on with my life. But immediately I was like, when I heard her say like, Eddie and I decided that we should be around friends. Come on, like you aren't even friends with them. They are not your friends yet. Occasion that happens, like certainly not your friends yet. Regardless of it, I can't imagine going into that setting with that kind of trauma, even if they know that's something I've been through, knowing it's the anniversary of the death and not telling anybody that directly ahead of time. All she had to do was let them know ahead of time by phone, told Kyle ahead of time, so Kyle could have told them by phone. You know, there's so many things she could have done if she had a hard time reaching out to them directly about it. Frankly, I think it's best she stay home. If she really wants to go out and be with people, are there other friends that are genuine friends, not on camera, that you can be with? Because otherwise it feels like you're using it for being on camera, like creating drama to be on camera with it, if I'm honest. But, right, let's say these are her only friends, possible. So that is really the closest she's going to have to, like, feeling good and, like, getting out there and getting something out of the day. So there's a psychic that we know from the scene at the party. So I can see her using that also as an excuse for why she should go. That said, how would I put it to Kyle? So in that conversation in the car, I might have said to Kyle, like, dude, I've been, like, feeling really torn about this. Let me just talk to you about it a little bit. I'm definitely going to go. I'm driving, I'm going to go. But I just want you to know I've been really torn because it's also the day of the anniversary. It's the anniversary day of my son dying. Obviously, like, I've done a lot of work and I've tried to process it a lot so that it's not as triggering, but there just is a possibility I'll get triggered. But I also really want to see the psychic because this is something that I, do often to try to connect with him. And so it would be really great if I could connect with him. So I'm sort of like, I've been torn, but I think ultimately I do want to be here and I do want to go do that. And I'm just letting you know, like, I might need an ally in certain cases, or at least just for you to know what's going on with me so that if you check in with me, we both know, like, right, we got what's going on without me having to explain to everyone else. Because I don't want to tell everyone tonight and have it be like, oh, how, right. So you can hear what I'm doing differently there. I'm acknowledging that it's been hard and I've been torn about it. That's not what she did even to us. She didn't explain feeling torn about it. I'm explaining that I do get triggered sometimes, but I'm not always triggered. I've worked on it. And so there might be a really, really big option where it doesn't trigger me at all. But if it triggers me, I might feel something deeply. You could just give me the side eye. We both feel like we're, not side in a negative way, but you kind of like look over at me. We'll both feel like we know what's going on. It'll dispel it so that I don't need to tell everyone about it. Right? Is the point there. The other thing about the psychic is I could also see her thinking, if I film and I connect with my son, like how cool that would be on camera. Yet again, using her son, like, I mean, it's almost in some ways using the cameras too, to like document something that she'll forever cherish.
Hi! How are you? You look like a goddess. Hi. Hi. Hi, gorgeous. After spending some time with Amanda, I have some reservations. I think that she is much more calculated than I thought.
Well, deal. Yeah, so nice to get the support from these ladies.
Here we see them all entering and sort of saying hello. And how cute and supportive this group is. Friggin' goodness. It's so sweet. This is what a supportive ladies community can look like. And how cool. Because how often has that happened on these shows? Honestly, not that often. It does happen, but not that often. This is a successfully supportive women's group. Gorgeous, gorgeous favorite. And then, after they're cheering on Dorit, book deal. Amanda says this.
Daughter duo. Like a ghost writer? Who authors a ghost writer? Yeah.
I just sat down and wrote.
Well, it's more for time.
I just wrote my book.
You must have had a lot of time. For someone who claims to be an author, she sure doesn't know how to read the room.
Co-author thing. It didn't even occur to me to not just sit down and write my book.
It depends on the style book you're writing.
I guess I'm a writer. Like, a big part of my job was writing before I wrote the book.
Amanda, are you okay? Like, what? Isn't there something in your brain that blocks you from saying something like that? You need to put someone else down to lift yourself up.
Okay, and note Kyle's face when she looks at. Let's go back for a second. Look at Kyle's face when Amanda says that. First, Kyle plays dumb, like sort of like, I don't know, like, what do you think? Not being like, wow, that was rough to say that. Like, extremely deeply offensive. Appalling. And if you are this like pomp and circumstance and elite, like in a thorough, grounded, like for real internalized way, you wouldn't need to share that with people because you would know that to be true. And you know what? They would be able to tell without you telling them. And when you tell them, it's less obvious. It makes it, honestly, it's like somebody who's super humble saying, I'm super humble. You're not super humble, or you wouldn't say you're super humble. No one says they're super humble and it's successfully humble. So like the way she just shoves it down people's throats is sort of like, we now don't believe that you have any sort of like, right, like first of all, merit, because she's basing everything on material goods and what she worked for and what she bought and what she manifested. Not even like really meaningful things about a relationship, honestly. Well, he was an Abercrombie & Fitch model, or he was everything I put on my list except one or two things. I don't know. Whatever. But being rough stuff. What she says to her is brutal.
Amanda and I had a nice lunch some weeks back.
So I've been thinking about you a lot since the party. I really have. Sending you love and good vibes every day. I'm praying you're getting some sleep.
Oh,
I really have.
She never said a single word about any concern. So it's pretty odd that I'm now hearing she's got a different opinion when my back is turned.
So that can also, if you're from money, she's new money, right? And people have talked about that distinction before, like nouveau riche. Erica's nouveau riche too. And she definitely doesn't behave like that. So it has another element to it as well. And we'll sort of keep unpacking that as we go. And the sort of first part.
Speaking of context and things flying out of their mouth, I just want to know, Amanda, what your concerns on me discussing my divorce. Because I heard that you had some concerns about the way I was speaking about the father of my children.
Kyle and I spoke a little that maybe it could make your divorce situation harder in the custody.
How so?
Where did you hear this?
I heard it from Sutton. So,
What day was this?
well, do you think it? I'm out of your mouth.
Really honest. Zion died 3 years ago today, and I'm holding on by a thread.
Is that your dog?
Son.
What?
3 years ago today. And
Your son?
came in.
I had absolutely no idea that the anniversary of Amanda's son's death was today.
I'm sorry that you're, it landed on a day like today. Maybe we'll have the conversation again, but I'm just curious. Having an opinion from someone who doesn't know me, doesn't know my situation, doesn't know my husband, and actually said to me, after I met you the first time, that you thought about me all weekend and prayed for me.
That's all very true. I have been thinking about you a lot. You're going through a hard time.
But
I think I agreed with Kyle. I don't think I had really strong feelings. Do you remember me saying anything other than agreeing with you?
I don't recall, actually.
do you think you hijacked Kyle's thought, who's known me for 8 years, and made it your own?
Do you think it's fair to bring this to me when I just shared with you guys what I'm going through?
I'm sorry, Amanda.
I'm telling you guys, this is a hard day for me. He died. My kid died.
Listen, you can say that you're not kind. Amanda, I'm not trying to be anything other than conversational. If you're not ready to have this conversation, it's fine. I respect your wishes 100%.
Okay. It could make a custody hearing more complicated.
Do you want to have the conversation or not? Because
No,
I'm
I
happy
absolutely
to.
Really
Okay,
go
so
home.
then we should have it another time. That's what I'm here.
You're a wonderful hostess. Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go be with Eddie. I just want to hold him and cry and talk about what today is.
That's great timing. Amanda shared with us that she had lost a baby at Jennifer Toomey's party. But I had no idea that today was the anniversary. I really wish she had told us, because I would never have said anything to her.
Hi, honey. Everybody feels very, very bad. And
Only one person should.
I'm sorry that happened.
She came at me accusatory with a very attacking style of energy.
Hold on a second.
Dorit. The second I said it was going on, that should have ended it.
I knew that she had a child that passed away.
But I definitely didn't know that it was today.
Listen, Kat, I respect that it's the anniversary of her son's death. I don't need to have any conversation with her.
Just go and be the bigger person. We're not forgiving or anything, okay? We're talking about a death.
Amanda, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I didn't know, obviously. You didn't say anything. And, as a mother, I cannot think of anything worse in my life. So just know. Okay. Well, it was just a nice gesture. But
I told you my kid died and you kept going. You kept getting really, really strong.
which I said I respect, and I said, you continue the conversation.
I was trying to get what you were saying.
Okay. But I don't want to have the conversation right now. I want to respect that you don't want to have the conversation. Do you understand? I don't think that conversation.
I don't think that's true. I think you very much wanted to go at it out there after I told you that I was going through. You did keep going.
Amanda.
If someone told you their kid, I definitely would have just given.
Okay. Well, I apologize that I didn't. But I just came out here right now to give you a hug. So why don't you go and good night, Amanda.
Good night, sweetie.
So in this scene, this is what I was talking about earlier about how Amanda essentially uses her trauma to set a boundary with Dorit. You can see that everyone's shocked, which is totally what she was going for. She wanted to shock people and have them jump to her side and jump to her aid, given what was going on. And she also wanted to punish anybody who kind of came for her through that. And also part of it's true. Part of it's true that she was sort of hanging on by a knife's edge, I'm sure, given everything going on, especially because she had just done her reading where she felt like he wasn't connecting with her. She probably felt very vulnerable after that on camera, admitting that she wasn't able to connect with her son when her husband said right earlier he is, right? So she ended up saying to the medium before she was filmed, saying to us that her husband's been able to connect with him and she hasn't. She said to the medium before that was ever filmed, that footage, that she was hoping to connect with him and hasn't been able to. And then the medium had to say to her, okay, try to get grounded, try to open yourself up to it, try to get outside, right? So she probably felt self-conscious about that, about what America would think seeing that, or what people would think, and if they think she was a bad parent, etc. So she is vulnerable, but not just because it's the anniversary, but because of the conversation she just had and so forth. Anniversary effects are also very real. So I'm not limiting that at all as a factor. Big time factor for sure. Anniversary effects. They affect our body without us really knowing or, consenting. Without our conscious thought, it's affecting our bodies. It's a trauma trigger, an anniversary effect is. So she was being re-traumatized through this experience, and now she's on camera for it, okay? It gets misplaced onto Dorit as the cause of the issue, because Dorit is holding her accountable, and she doesn't like it. She felt like Dorit was too forceful. I see this as Dorit being quite gentle compared to Dorit in other settings. I thought that she did try to pivot when Amanda said that, and then she said one more thing, which I agree, maybe not ideal. But she said one more thing. It's hard for us to stop momentum that we started. I think there was a part of her that was well, we can talk about, she first said, we can talk about it another time, but I'm just wondering what your opinion is. Meaning, can I try this one more time without being too forceful such that you'll let this conversation happen if I just gently say I'm curious, right? Instead of coming at you, I say I'm curious. Would that be okay? Can we have that conversation? And at first, Amanda goes there. She answers her question. And then she comes back to it and she's like, why didn't you just walk away from it? As soon as I told you about my trauma, you should have said, I'm sorry, we'll come back to this another time. And start to say that. And then she still was trying one more time of if I gently bring it up, can we go there? You started to go that way. She continued. Then you backed off. She backed off, right? So then she backs off, but then Amanda actually says one more thing after she makes Dorit back off. So then Dorit's okay, but are we having it or not? So then she goes, actually, I'm going home. So suddenly now there's a huge wall up. She's worried about how she looks. She broke her own boundary. She's upset with how Dorit's coming, to her, stepping to her a little bit. Again, all of these things being physiologically impacted by the fact she actually is experiencing trauma in this moment, being re-traumatized by basic instincts related to the anniversary effect and related to being on camera saying she can't connect with her son who's dead. So all these things are in place. She gets up, leaves so performatively, just incredibly performatively leaves. She goes to the door, waits for people. Kyle comes after her. I hate to see you like this. Kathy comes after. By the way, we see Kathy waiting for a while at the table, so she must have been gone for a while before Kathy even came to go find her, quote unquote, at the door. Kathy says, well, how can we fix this? She's only one person needs to be upset, meaning she's upset with Dorit only. So Kathy does her thing where very, old money. She thinks, why don't we just fix things on the face of it? So she says, even directly says to Dorit, we're not forgiving anyone. She says, maybe she says to her, we're not forgiving anyone. She says, Dorit, we're not trying to apologize to anyone. You just could come say whatever, you don't mean it like that. She can have a good night or whatever. Basically saying it doesn't need to be fixed on the underlying part of it, but you should try to fix it on the face of it. Why should you fix it on the face of it? Who is that helping? That's some old money shit, I tell you, because ultimately anytime she does this, I actually do not think it's a good idea. I think let them get some space, come back to it later. Fake apology bullshit on the surface of it actually doesn't help. It just kind of furthers the divide because then they both feel like that was fake and then they both don't know if they can trust each other the next time. Let them be mad, let them come back to it another time. So Dorit being convinced finally by Kathy, first she's like, no, but then Kathy convinces her, so she goes and says something quite nice. Amanda's very standoffish. She has tears rolling down her face that she doesn't wipe. That's performative because we just, by human nature, it will tickle our face, we'll try to wipe it, and she didn't do that. She let everyone see that she was that upset. Dorit tries to wipe it. She gets mad at her for touch. Please don't touch me. Some of that feels like the new generational stuff. So some of what's happening with Amanda is also her age or life experience, where she's a lot like Crystal, which also gets brought up, just younger than this group. And so she's been trained on a different model. And one of the models of life she's been trained on is set your boundaries, be clear about what you want in your physical space, be clear about what you want for your emotional space, and don't feel bad about telling people about it. In the moment, be concise, be clear, yada yada. So in the moment, she's very concise and clear. Don't touch me. Okay. And meanwhile, Dorit's like, I'm fucking trying to be nice. Like, I don't even feel like I should be, but I'm trying. So like, okay. And she kind of says that too. She's like, okay, I'm trying, but whatever. Like, got it. Like, noted. And she still tries again. Dorit again ends on a good note. My God, I was really impressed. She was patient. She slowed down. She apologized. I didn't think she should have to apologize to the degree she did. Kathy set up this fake whatever. And it didn't work with Amanda because Amanda was still fired up and wanted to blame somebody for why she's embarrassed, because she's embarrassed about these other things I brought up, including just the anniversary fix event, including being traumatized, not necessarily just embarrassed. Yeah. Rough scene to watch, frankly. Rough ending to it. Was impressed with Dorit throughout the whole thing. I felt actually like she was calm throughout the entire conversation, which is why she calmly said, well, I'm just curious why you said this, in a way that Amanda actually did respond to it before she buckled back, around to say, why are you even talking about this when I told you about my son? Sort of heads up or spoiler alert, Amanda goes on to say repeatedly that Dorit disrespected Amanda and Amanda's son on the anniversary. Okay, like, I don't know. I don't think that's true. I think even when Dorit, quote unquote, kept going, she was just trying to see if just a regular conversation versus an intense one would work, and it didn't, so she moved on.
So how was everything?
I'm a shell of my former self. Rachel's party definitely took a toll on me. I woke up every 30 minutes all night long with my heart pounding, which says to me that my body experienced that interaction like a physiological threat. Couldn't sleep. I don't have emotional breakdown, truly ever.
Right. Well, you were very calm, cool, collected, so.
But I am a pretty grounded person. I do keep my wits about me, so thank you.
Yeah, I do.
You'll notice that Kyle even asks her, well, what was upsetting about it? Like, which part was upsetting? She even says to us, she's like, I don't think Dorit was that bad, so I don't really get it. And she's like, excuse me, not only that she brought it up on the anniversary, but then when I told her about it, she didn't stop. It's like, she did. After a second, she tested the waters to see if we could do it casually. And then, and she's sort of like, no, I had physiological arousal. This was an attack. So here's where I want to bring up the social pain overlap theory, which is this idea, I've brought it before, but it's important. This idea that when we have any sort of threat to our social safety, so that means like a sense of belongingness is in threat, or we feel like we're getting rejected, or we think that somebody doesn't like us for some reason, we feel like we're ostracized for any reason, we're actually going to experience that in our brains as a physical threat. Our head is going to be like, uh-oh, danger, because you might not belong in this group anymore if this happens. And then you might die because you're not in the way. So belonging is tied naturally to our physical safety and therefore is registered in the brain the same way a physical threat would be. This means a couple of things. One is that Dorit seeming disapproval of her would also trigger her brain portions that seem like she's a physical threat. So she's right about that. But so would the fact that she would embarrass herself with how she behaved. She might be worried that that's going to be a lack of belongingness related to that, including by America, not just the group. She might be worried that we're all going to judge her for the fact that she's not being in touch with her son. Her son's not in touch with her. She might be worried that we're going to think he must not have been a good mother because he doesn't want to see you. Those kind of things, which are ghastly and not true. So I can just see that those things would also be physiologically arousing in a way that would feel like a physical threat. Much like Crystal Minkoff, she uses a lot of language that is a newer generation about physiological threat, verbally accosting, yada yada.
Yeah, and I got so overly emotional. I mean, I cried for 2 hours. It's okay to not hold it together all the time. When did they move out? 2017. We bought it. Yeah, it was my money. I should be clear. When I bought it, I mean, we have renovated together, but I did buy it. Yeah, right.
Why? I just don't think it's necessary. Doesn't add to the conversation.
First things first, she's making sort of in-group, out-group energy with Kyle about Dorit. Sort of like, oh, where is she? Okay, she's going to be here soon. Uh-oh. And Kyle's like, are you okay? Here she comes. Sort of like builds on it too. As soon as Dorit gets there, what does Amanda do? She sees that Dorit interacts with Kyle in a way that's actually quite pleasant. And they're both talking about how we're matching and oh my gosh, Kyle, thank you so much for doing this. So immediately when they see each other, Kyle's quite sweet with her. And we see Amanda's face straighten, like she felt like she had nowhere to turn suddenly. And she got up and left. She got up and left and went to the bathroom in a way someone would if they felt like they had no one to turn to in that group. She felt alone. So that goes to show she didn't expect Kyle to be so close with Dorit based on the things Kyle has said. I mean, I think that Amanda's awareness of Kyle's fight with Dorit and fighting with Dorit has been limited to what Kyle has told her behind closed doors versus seeing what it's like when they were together in a group setting and how different that can be. And Kyle kind of is those both sides of those things. She isn't just friendly with Dorit and she isn't just harsh on Dorit. So I think that really effed with Amanda, who got none of that energy from Dorit. Everyone's seeing her do it loudly, right? And she's the queen of the ball because it's her birthday, and yet she pays almost no attention to Amanda, and even Kyle is paying more attention to Amanda, to Dorit than she did to Amanda. So she gives up and is gone. Okay.
Amanda, glad to see you. It was the last time we saw each other. It was a heavy night, and it was a heavy moment. And I think that we should clear the air.
Would you like to go somewhere and speak about it?
No, we don't have to go somewhere and speak about it. I'm happy to speak to you now.
Right? You'd be able to go to a dinner party without being verbally accosted. Whoa. Accosted is the right word.
Verbally accosted by me?
That is how I experienced it.
The next energy that's spent at the party in terms of the relational dynamic amongst them is related to Dorit saying, should we talk about it? It's great to see you. My gosh, if she's not being the bigger person in that interaction. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's fantastic. By the way, we also saw, before I even get there, we also saw Amanda make a dig at her about, like, what time are we supposed to be here again? And then, like, look at Kyle's reaction. She's like, guffaw. Like, they're children. Kyle's being a child about Dorit and using this as a way to talk shit about Dorit on camera. So this is what got me in my first theory about what the fuck's up with Amanda. I think she was hired to be Kyle's Bose. If we think about the fact that Bose has served this really important feature for for Dorit. She's been serving this very important feature for Dorit where she lets Dorit talk about what's wrong with Kyle on the camera. She holds her, hand and things. She has her back and things. And Kyle doesn't have anyone like that. So I could just 100% see Kyle either going to producers and saying, that's not fair. Of course, Dorit had a good year. Because, by the way, Dorit had a killer year last year because she had Bose, who's emotional intelligence queen. And the fact she really put Dorit first in her thinking meant that Dorit came out on top on basically everything. She came out of the reunion looking squeaky clean. People loved her. So Kyle's like, oh, of course, because she got to have someone to sound off to. So give me someone like that and I'll have a good year too. Or they told her they wanted to do that, and so they gave her Amanda. Or they told her, sure, find someone you want, bring her on. And so then she found Amanda, made her story sound interesting enough, and brought her in. Because think about all the signs. Amanda's only anchor in the group is Kyle. Kyle goes with her to the places they, have outside conversations where they can talk about things that happen on camera from their perspective. They both trash Dorit. Immediately, Amanda's doing her dirty work with Dorit. Immediately, she's picking up a fight with Dorit. Amanda even told us she was agreeing with Kyle when she said the things she said about Dorit. She is surprised. Amanda is surprised when she's not given the same privileging from Kyle that she gives Kyle. Every time she makes a joke, she looks to Kyle to see how she reacts and get her to have her back. Kyle often responds the way that Amanda wants her to, even in front of Dorit, which shows that she's stuck. Like, she has to react that way to Amanda, or Amanda's going to be like, we just talked about it the other day and you didn't say that, or like, you weren't like that, or you were like this. So she's stuck in a position where she has to react how Amanda wants her to react. And also, just again, like, this gives her an opportunity to talk trash about Dorit in a setting that's not directly to Dorit. The same way she wasn't able to do with Bose, because Bose was Dorit's, but also, like, she tried once at Bose's house or whatever. So all this to say, I'm pretty positive Amanda is her Bose, and she's just nowhere near as emotionally smart, kind, funny, attentive, respectful. Bose was an amazing group member to everyone. She made sure everyone got her fair first open judgment. She was not going to hold any judgment based on just what Dorit told her. She did learn some things that are not great from those people because of how they're reacting to Dorit, and so then she took it on to be like, that's what they're like, or like, that's not necessarily true, that's just how they were in that context with Dorit. But anyway, I'm thinking of Garcelle. But anyway, still, she tried to keep an open mind with everybody, keep an open mind. That's not really how Amanda's being at all. Amanda's being a high schooler with Kyle, having Kyle's back the way Kyle needs it, so that Kyle can feel good about talking shit about Dorit and really continuing her fight with her. So you can see that happening at this meal, because here's this scene that we just watched, and it just gets worse and amplified more. It starts between Dorit and Amanda, and suddenly it finally erupts into being about Kyle and Dorit, which is where it was all along. That's really where it was housed. And yet even Kyle, by the way, can't agree with everything Amanda does or says. Let's be real. Like, her being like, she's going to have some thicker skin. But she tells us that off camera, right? She didn't tell Amanda that. She didn't tell other people that. She didn't talk about Amanda behind her back so that Amanda then finds out that Kyle's talking shit, right? So very, very strategic way of dealing with Amanda that feels very political. And the political piece of it feels very much like this was an intentional dyad that was meant to support Kyle, and whatever amount of intention went into it from which people. Like, did the producers suggest this is what she needed? Did Kyle suggest it? Did Kyle find Amanda? Did they find Amanda? Amanda bought Kyle's house, so Okay, and the other conversation that happens here is a conversation about Kyle's house and how she sold it to Amanda. Amanda has Kyle over to look at the house, and Kyle gets emotional. What? Of course she does, and everyone's surprised by it. It's a mystery to me. I mean, Kyle, like, first of all, the fact Amanda had her over and didn't say, like, this might be emotional for you, like, how do I help? If you're so emotionally woke, why weren't you thinking of what Kyle might be going through when she came back to the house? That you changed immensely, and that used to have all her childhood memories in it. As Kyle was going through the house, she was constantly like, oh, that's where we used to do this, that's where we used to do that. Like, that should have read, like, a children's book to you if you're that emotionally woke. Okay? So to me, it's like, wow, we have attachments to places. Our emotions are connected to places because we experience things with people we love in those places. So those places end up holding close spots to our hearts. And that's totally normal. And when they were talking about that happening to Kyle, Erica also was like, oh, wait, me too. That happened to me too. That makes sense. It's like, again, people are just sort of shocked by that. Right. Ultimately, that's not surprising. We have attachments to places just like we do to people, part because people that we love, we spend time with in those attached places. Also, in part because a safe haven or a secure base is a big part of what allows us to go out into the world and explore. We need to be able to go home to a place that we feel safe in to be able to feel like we're safe enough to go out and explore elsewhere. So that's a childhood attachment issue and definitely a big reason we attach to places in addition to people, and why that was so upsetting. And what does Amanda say in response to Kyle bringing this up to the group? She goes, you can't keep together all the time. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I didn't follow up with you. I didn't realize that you were feeling emotional. Or saying like, wow, I should have thought that through before I had you over like that, or whatever. She changes the topic basically because she makes it vague and broad instead of answering Kyle's direct line of questioning or thoughtfulness or self-reflection. It just really goes to show, again, like this total lack of mentalization, putting herself in someone else's shoes. She's not putting herself in other people's shoes. That's a major part of why this is going so wrong. A major part of her presentation is she doesn't mentalize or put herself in other people's shoes.
Do you think I approached you aggressively?
I do.
I felt hurt and disappointed. That's all. I thought you were super, super sweet. Really by surprise when I had heard that you were saying that behind my back.
I didn't say anything behind your back. You could have just asked me, but you didn't just ask me. You came at me with some pretty strong accusation and aggression. And then when I told you it was the anniversary of the death of my son, you didn't stop. You kept going. You kept going.
And it just like ripple effects all the way down the table. Everybody's appalled by that. Fucking Summer jumps in. Summer's a brand new friend because she's Bose's friend from Kentucky or something. She hops, skips, jump right into the conversation. It's like, friend, you know, like, And actually that wasn't in the case that Dorit said, aren't you from a cult?
It's fine? No, I can't do that.
It is clear to me, based on some of the dynamics tonight, that this is a communication style I am very not used to. I mean, even had it not been the anniversary of Zion's death, I still would have not liked being approached that way.
But here's the thing, Amanda, you can't be in charge of how people want to respond. So that's an adult thing to understand.
You don't ever set boundaries with people around how they can and can't speak to you?
Well, how am I going to enforce that? That sounds crazy. You can't walk around the planet thinking that everybody's going to agree with you.
In my 40 years of life, I have never left a dinner party crying.
I thought you ran away from a cult.
I did.
Three.
Okay, that's not right. No, I'm just curious.
I did leave a cult.
I mean, and it just doesn't sound nice.
What does the cult have to do with anything? This woman disrespected me and my son on the anniversary of his death. And now she wants to bring up that I'm in a cult? She's just scraping the bottom of the barrel for anything she thinks will make me look bad.
A cult? What kind?
That's a whole different story.
Even the people in the group that are saying, oh, I never Google anybody. We all Google everybody. It's like Meghan Markle saying, I never Googled Prince Harry before I dated him. It's like, please.
Oh.
Meghan Markle takes a stray. So at the end there, that was Jennifer Tilly saying that everyone in this group might pretend they don't Google people, but we all Google each other. And she's like, that's just like Meghan Markle saying she didn't Google Prince Harry before she had dinner with him. Yeah, right. And I loved it. And it also reminded me of Iqbal and the way that he and Natalie Joy suggest that she didn't know he was the Bachelor before they went on a date, as if she didn't Google him. I don't think so. Okay. I'm pretty sure she's a fan of The Bachelor and pretty sure she knew. Anyway.
You're saying if you're in a cult, like intense interactions would be happening. There's far worse that you've experienced than what happened the other night. Far worse.
And Summer's point, and it's a good one, and Dorit's original point, which she didn't fully voice until with some help from Summer, is like you've been through hard conversations. You've seen some fighting, right? Haven't you seen arguments? Haven't you seen some conversations that were uncomfortable? Haven't you been at a dinner table that was like not kosher really for you or whatever? Instead, in response to that, Amanda goes, not only did she disrespect my son and me on the anniversary of his death, but now she's accusing the cult as being part of. She's talking about me being in the cult. She brings up present tense, me being in a cult. She didn't say me leaving a cult, which is what Dorit actually said. And also, by the way, what everyone thought was that you left a cult. But she talked about it in present tense, and I do wonder if she's still connected to it. And I do wonder if that's a big part of her behavior. And I do wonder also if it's a big part of her attachment issues. Unresolved attachment stuff with them, loss included, maybe still being a part of the group. I mean, I don't know what kind of cult it is. Regardless, it's a big thing that she's still talking about in present tense. It either means she's still psychologically there, or she literally is still a part of it. Most likely. One of those two things.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's worse than ever happened to me. I woke up, let me finish, please. Let me finish. I woke up about every 30 minutes all night long with my heart being beating very fast. My body interpreted that evening as a physiological threat. Girl, why are you shaking your head at that? I mean...
Okay, we need to pause right here. So I'm just thinking about from Bose's perspective, a woman of color with dark skin, so thinking about colorism even within racism, hearing from a white lady with a bunch of privilege, saying to her, I felt physiologically unsafe. I'm blinking. Long pauses between blinks. Point being, this is just not a thing for her to be saying to Bose. It just does not feel appropriate, and I can't imagine from Bose's perspective how that would just sit with her. The idea behind this concept of white lady tears, right, is that white women will commandeer a racial dialogue where someone might be confronting someone for microaggressions or just trying to have a dialogue about race, and white women might commandeer the conversation by crying and sort of feeling, erroneously making it about how they were attacked when they absolutely were not. They were being invited into a conversation, or even if they were being addressed with any sort of energy, it's for good reason. And so whenever someone of color sort of speaks to a white woman and sort of says like, hey, what you said there is implicitly racist, then if that person's reaction is to start crying, then everyone in the room is now concerned about that person's quote unquote safety or about them crying. It's no longer about the dialogue that had started out. And that is very much what this feels like with Amanda, where it's sort of like, oh no, it's all about her safety. Right? So that's the sort of concept this comes from of white lady tears and the idea of commandeering a conversation to be about their safety rather than about what was originally being discussed. And so I can imagine that Bose has seen this happen 100 million times as a black woman, and maybe not. I don't want to assume she has, but many black people and people especially with dark skin. So she's faced colorism, shadeism, racism. I'm sure that it's at least likely that she has seen conversations in which it became about white lady tears or white lady safety when the original concern was too difficult or something for the white woman to be able to handle, and especially if it involved feedback, which in this case was Dorit giving her feedback. And Dorit's a Jewish woman, so it does also read of that as well, in that in the way that it's so similar to white lady tears or making it about her physiological safety, quote unquote. So one, I do really want to draw your attention to this white lady tears instance where a Jewish woman was trying to give her feedback about something she'd heard being said about her behind her back, and her reaction was to be, at least now, so one thing is in the immediate moment, she's saying, I can't handle this right now, given what's going on in my life. And Dorit was able to sort of hear why that was important. But then now, looking back on it, for Amanda to say, you accosted me, you were attacking me, I was, poor me, essentially, is white lady tears. It's distracting from the importance of the conversation itself and making it about her physiological safety or emotional safety, which is deeply problematic and racist and a microaggression. And so something worth really noting here. The other reason I wanted to pause here is because I also think there is something that she could have said here. And I think it's also what I'm going to suggest closer to the reality of it. If Amanda had the sort of wherewithal or self-awareness, let's say, to understand that her physiological arousal that night really only barely, if at all, had to do with Dorit's conversation. More so, my personal opinion is that it had a lot to do with her feeling embarrassed by Dorit calling her out, by the fact that Kyle did not actually have her back. She said, I don't remember. So suddenly Amanda was on her own, even though she thought she was there with a ally of Kyle. She was probably embarrassed by getting up and leaving. Those kinds of things would absolutely keep someone up overnight, right? Especially if you're thinking about the social pain overlap theory that we already talked about, and the idea that might make her feel like if she doesn't belong, she might die, right? That would actually get triggered as a physiological lack of safety because she's embarrassed, not because Dorit actually made her feel unsafe. So that's something I would think of as a real factor if I were being self-aware and I were Amanda. And then I was sort of self-reflecting on it, I would imagine that's a factor. And then also the factor of it actually being an anniversary effect and her actually being triggered. I mean, it's interesting because she, on the one hand, is saying she knows she's still traumatized that she knows she had trauma pretty recently. It's still affecting her. Her husband at one point said that it snuck up on him last year for the anniversary. That happens all the time for folks with anniversary effects. It is deeply traumatizing to lose someone, especially a child, especially in your arms right after they're born. I cannot imagine. And so rather than sort of recognizing that her unresolved trauma or just existing continued trauma and traumatic loss would still be affecting her to the extent that it would keep her up the night of the anniversary, especially after a deeply intense day of filming, rather than admit that, it's safer in some way for her apparently to blame Dorit as having accosted her. And then on top of that, being embarrassed by what just happened with the psychic and feeling like she can't connect with her son on a day of the anniversary of all days. And at this time where she feels like she's at peak living, and she would think that her son would show up for her that night with that psychic, and he didn't. And so she's sort of feeling all of these feelings. And then this conversation happens, and then she, so forth. So there's 100 reasons why she might have a hard time sleeping that night. And very little, if at all, would it have to do with Dorit. So here's something that I think that with that self-awareness, if she were able to get there with self-reflection or a therapist, I would think that Amanda might say something like, I think with all of the things going on for me that night, for example, it was the anniversary, and so there was a very real trauma triggering of the anniversary effect of my son dying, and the fact that it just was a pretty overwhelming night for me, really not to do with that conversation. There were a number of reasons why I really had a hard time sleeping that night. And while I do think some of it might have had to do with our conversation and just sort of feeling like maybe I wasn't going to belong after we had that conversation, that might have absolutely factored in. I also recognize that I can't control how you respond and speak to me. And while I do totally recognize we have our own thoughts, feelings, experiences with this idea of physiological safety, I did feel physiologically aroused and like activated during the conversation with Dorit. But I'm also aware that there were 100 other factors that likely had to do with it. And I did feel really visible and sort of raw and unsupported, and sort of like everyone's eyes were on me. So a lot of the physiological activation I had during the conversation could have been in addition to the fact that I'm not used to people yelling at dinner tables, but also these other things. And so I just want to name that I'm aware that we have different sort of ideas of what I'm talking about when I say physiological safety. And for me, when I say that I felt unsafe, I also want to be really conscious of the fact that there were many factors for why I felt that way, and not just how Dorit was speaking to me. If you're at least okay with me sort of saying to you, I'm shutting down right now because I feel a little bit under attack, or I feel a little bit under pressure, or visible, right? So like she probably also felt embarrassed by the fact everyone was listening and watching, literally the whole world, right, on camera. So that sort of visibility absolutely would be embarrassing and nerve-wracking. There were just a number of factors at play. She need not blame it all on Dorit, who was merely trying to stand up for herself. So not only was this sort of like using of the trauma a little problematic, which by the way, I could also come up with something she could say about that, honestly, if she wanted to sort of own that. I guess it would be something like, looking back, I had actually intended not to share that with anybody that night other than Kyle, whom I shared it with in the car. And so I realized in past tense, sort of looking back rather in retrospect, I realized it almost kind of looks like I was using it to defend myself and so that you wouldn't keep giving me feedback. And I really am deeply pained by that, both out of like, how it worked with you, but then really more so out of my own self-respect and respect for my son. So I've just really been thinking a lot about that. Thank you for understanding. I'd rather really not talk about it just because it is a little bit fiery for me, or a little bit, emotionally triggering. But I just wanted to let you know I have been thinking about that, and I'm sorry for what that caused between us. Right, so that's if something, if she wanted to end up apologizing for it. I don't think she does want to, even after watching it back, because of the after show, we know she keeps defending her behaviors, but if she were to, it's one way she could do it. So, yeah, we'll get back into it.
Your expectations of not having confrontation in the way that you don't like is unrealistic.
That's true.
So you need to understand that and also accept that.
But can there be disagreements without conflict?
No.
You disagree, you sit, you speak, you have the intention to really hear each other, and there's not a huge conflict.
Girl, what are you talking about?
No.
How? In this human experience? No. What fantasy world is Amanda living in? Because in this reality, we've got to have real conversations that push edges, that address conflict, that make us uncomfortable. Because I don't know any world in which Amanda thinks that she's the sole power to be able to control how people feel.
We cannot control how people speak to us or how people react to us. We can only control how we react to other things.
Yes.
And trust me, if I could control how people speak to me,
girl,
life would be a lot different.
Hallelujah.
So anyway, that was a big moment. But yeah, so her bringing this up, right? So Bose's point was like, friend, you cannot control other people's reactions. You can say, and she even says, well, Amanda goes, well, haven't you ever set boundaries about how people can talk to you? She goes, but then how do I enforce them? And that is the connection, right? So what you could say is something like, if you're in the dynamic where you want to set boundaries, say something like, listen, I totally understand that this feels sort of like an important way for you to express yourself, to yell at me.
I will say I'm not used to that kind of communication, and so my immediate reaction is going to be to shut down. So it's not to say you can't speak to me that way, but when somebody does, I will likely shut down and eventually probably leave. So I think there's just something to be said there about how we might try to reach each other, and if there's a way we can do it in a way that can be received. Or
so rather than telling someone you cannot do this or do not speak to me this way, you can say, if you do this thing, I'm going to just naturally do this other thing. And so it's not that you're threatening, but more so just like, there are consequences that are out of our hands that I also don't blame you. I don't judge you. And also if that's just going to cut off my ability to be there with you in presence. But like, I also understand that sometimes that's just how it has to fly. And so like, whatever. And over time, you might decide you don't want to be friends with them because that's not the style you can cope with. Because especially if it is actually triggering for you, not the relationship for you, right? Relationships should be growth fostering. And if they're not, then it might not be the one for you. So ultimately, maybe it just means her style doesn't match with anybody else's to the point that she could stay in this relationship for a long time. I kind of call bullshit. I can't imagine not having her people get... It was not accosting. She did not accost her. She literally just turned to her and she's like, what was that? What did you mean by that? Calm voice, super uncomfy. They all do that. It's a part of the show. What did she think she was getting into? So again, it's sort of like this elitist kind of thing suggesting she can control other people's reactions to her or it's entitled. So I think ultimately my final estimations are as follows. Number one, she's younger in terms of generation. Whether or not she's, actually age generation, her life experience is such that she appears and presents as early 30s, maybe even late 20s. So, and I know she's not late 20s. I think she said she's 30, but because she sort of has this like woke-esque kind of way of being in the world, but it's actually not feminist. And I think it's suggesting on the front that she's trying to be feminist by like taking credit for what she's done. And of course, that's important. The way you do it's important too, and relationships are important to feminists as well. And so is facing oppression, not just benefiting from it being challenged by other people. So like for an example, she's benefiting from the fact that we're challenging the conversation around home ownership. She's benefiting from it without continuing that conversation. So if she had instead said in a misogyny or like in a patriarchy with the misogyny herein, we don't recognize women when they buy houses. It just isn't talked about enough. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in this case, just because I'm trying to like help challenge that and da-da-da. No, she just benefits from that conversation happening by being like, by the way, I bought it, sort of. So sort of that vibe, and I don't love it. So this also, that generation is a little bit of this sort of like entitlement, elitism piece, totally common in other generations as well. It's not just this kind of generation, but this generation is now at the age where entitlement is a common factor, right? This cohort is going through their entitlement phase. Millennials had theirs as well. We're now on the other side, humbled by the fact we're all not great, not in great shape. So for various reasons. So basically, point being, that's a big part of her presentation. Just going to call it right how it is. She does not mentalize. She doesn't know how to put herself in someone else's shoes. She's probably good at it with her kids, I'm going to say, because she seems good with kids. I'm here for it. I think that's great. What a great trait. So I think she's a good mother. That's awesome. I think she's having a hard time connecting with her son who has passed or is dead because she isn't very grounded right now. I think she's pretty disconnected from her body because of the trauma, specifically from her son dying originally. Okay, like the original insult to her system is the very, very traumatic loss of her child. Deeply traumatic in ways most people will never understand, in ways she will never fully process. So she has to be way more patient with herself. It's going to take more time to heal that, and then she can be more open to seeing her kiddo again. In any way that is, whether it's in a dream or whether she feels the sight or feels the warmth of him. I think she needs to be more grounded and healed before that's going to feel possible, including it might be just too emotional to see him again right now or whatever it might be. So it's almost like she really needs to be more of a grounded presence for that to feel available to this, if there's like a spirit thing too, really, right? Like the spirit might be more likely to visit her if they feel like she's not going to destroy her, to see him again. And that's all like, woo-woo if you will. But even on a non-woo-woo level, I think she needs more healing around this trauma because anybody would. So instead, she's getting triggered on the anniversary, blaming Dorit, holding the information about it being the anniversary until she can use it to her advantage, frankly, potentially. Or she didn't want to tell the whole group, which I said she shouldn't do with the original thing anyway. But then still, like, you would tell a couple other people when you got there, whatever. Convenience of the timing when she tells people about it, including the first time telling them about his death in a way to sort of trauma dump, get, buy-in for your vulnerability. And how stoic and resilient you are, when frankly it kind of looks more like you're disconnected to me. I was sort of be like, getting some therapy or whatever, which I say about everyone. Truly, we could all use therapy. And we probably all have some sort of trauma. Anyway, I think those are part of her presentation as well. Her trauma symptoms are very palpable. The fact she had physiological reactions for the whole night is really probably unlikely to be about Dorit's way of speaking to her, and much more likely to be about worrying she embarrassed herself and therefore would threaten a sense of belonging with the group. worrying that she embarrassed herself to America through saying that her son doesn't visit her when he does his dad, and so that makes her feel like maybe we'd worry she was a bad parent when he was alive. Yada yada. So point being, there's a lot to be physiologically aroused by from that night, and I don't think it was Dorit's conversation. Which she also tried. Yes, that's the other thing she keeps saying is like she wouldn't stop. She did stop, and also she for a second was like, "Could we do this casually? Is that what you're saying too?" And you said no. She stopped, and then you kept going, and she stopped you. Not the right narrative, cheeky. Right, like that sort of threatening, like, well, I know how to set a boundary. Like I might have to set a boundary soon, but that's okay. It's sort of like, I mean, what is the boundary? She can't talk to you at all. Like, I think the idea of being able to sit down and talk through difference is a beautiful idea. And when there's real personal feeling difference, it's real hard not to have emotions. And wouldn't it also be better just to acknowledge we're all entitled to emotions? So it's eventually where Rachel goes, saying like, I don't want to hold it together all the time. And Dorit shouldn't have to hold it together all the time. But I don't even feel like that's what it was at the meal. It didn't seem like she wasn't holding it together. It seemed like she was holding it together. It was sort of like, I'm holding you accountable. Tell me what's up. Tell me what you said about me. She was embarrassed because she got caught saying something about Dorit by Kyle. She felt betrayed by the one person whom she's paired with to be her, dyad, so that she can feel like she is already part of the group, and so that Kyle can feel like she can have a Bose the way that Dorit has Bose. She has her own version, which is Amanda. They're dyadically paired, and yet Dorit found out she said this about her. And Kyle is then quickly picking up that vibe and goes, hold on, how did you find out? Had to be Sutton. Because it wasn't Kyle. Made sure that Amanda knew it wasn't her. So I think they're in this weird dyadic thing. Amanda felt worried and betrayed that Kyle betrayed her. She realizes that's not what happened, so that she's able to stay grounded a little longer and stay in the conversation. Okay, well, if Kyle didn't abandon me too, at least we're good. A lot of nuance, but anyway, just some thoughts. I have more. Anyway, well, let me say too. So, right, the mentalization, trauma symptoms, childlike behavior in some ways, the structural piece being structured and organized and etc. really comes from a place of trauma, potentially, and OCD as a result of it. And feeling like you need to stay in control because you were out of control during the trauma. And then I guess, the last sort of note is that she's the Bose to Kyle the way that Bose is Bose to Dorit, and that therefore there is a certain amount of like constructive element that went into this, like predictive, or prescriptive piece to their friendship. And also it means that they're going to rely on each other, and when that falls apart, there's going to be even more heartbreak and da-da-da. So I don't know. Those are some thoughts about why Amanda is the way Amanda is. I will say she is watching the show back, and in the after show, she straight up is not taking any accountability. So I don't know. I don't know how she'll feel by the end of the season, but of course she's still feeling defensive coming into it. That makes sense, right? I don't know. Some thoughts about why she's stuck in my craw anyway, and to leave you with that. So stick around. Come hang out with us elsewhere. See the video for this. Halfway through I put a blanket on because goddamn is it cold. You can find the video at patreon.com/R reality, capital T test. You could also go to patreon.com and go into their search bar and just use the @ symbol before reality test to find us. You can go to Instagram at reality test podcast, at reality test podcast on Instagram. We also have individual ones at Dr. K Pods, that's me, and at Dr. Ray Pods, that's Dr. Ray. You can go to our TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube. All three use the handle Reality Test Pod. Reality Test Pod. So it's an @ symbol before that for the YouTube channel and for TikTok, and then it's the page name for Facebook is Reality Test Pod with spaces, not the @ symbol. Again, TikTok has kind of fallen off because of the political ownership of it, but you can find past videos there. Our email, and if you want to shout out, what we had talked about as the shout out for this week, if you wanted to share, is like, do you think it's racist? Like, one of our reactions might be like, why can't we see subtitles for Bad Bunny's music, given that people of color often have that, and not of color, but people with different languages often see that on American television, because American television has dominated this globe and had to learn English rather than have subtitles in their own language. So is it unfair to sort of suggest that for one Super Bowl we can't make it happen with just reading cues like they've had to their whole lives? Fair. So do you think that's racist? What do you think about that? Like I can see arguments in all sorts of directions. So anywho, if you want to email it, go to realitycheckpodding, PODDING @gmail.com. As Dr. Ray would kindly say, first she would say, rate, review, subscribe. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. And don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. And tell all your friends. And also, $5 measly at Patreon. $5 measly to become a member. You get the audios the night before, typically. And then, the other things I would say is like, hi, friends. If your friends brought you here, that's awesome. Bring your friends. Hi, friends. Friends of friends. Come again, will you? Come back and see us the next time. Otherwise, I'll be back with Dr. Ray next Monday. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. I adore you. See you next session.